We do have a little Easter program to put on for y'all. Our kids have worked really hard trying to memorize their scriptures and practicing a skit all for y'all. We also have an object lesson that some of the youth will be doing today. And put your branches up, boy. Where are your branches? There you go. Okay. All right, right there, Jacob. Sit right there. All right, so we're going to kick this off. We're actually going to start it off with a skit today, a little kid skit. So we hope you guys just enjoy it.
Once upon a mountaintop, 3 little trees stood and dreamed of what they wanted to become when they grew up. The first little tree looked up at the stars and said, "I want to hold a treasure. I want to be covered with gold and filled with precious stones. I'll be the most beautiful treasure chest in the world." The second little tree looked out at the small stream trickling by on its way to the ocean and said, "I want to be a mighty ship. I will carry the most powerful kings through the water. I'll be the strongest ship in the world." The third little tree looked down into the valley below where the busy men and women worked in a busy town and said, "I don't want to leave the mountaintop at all. I want to grow so tall that when people stop to look at me, they'll raise their eyes to heaven and think of God. I'll be the tallest tree in the world." Years passed. The rain came down, watering the trees. The sun shone bright and hot, giving the little trees all their nutrients to grow. It rained a lot. And the sun, it shined so bright. And the trees, they just grew so very, very tall. They were very well nurtured. One day, a carpenter climbed up the hill looking for trees to cut down for his lumber for his work. The carpenter looked at the first tree and thought to himself, "This tree is beautiful." It was perfect for him. And with the swoop of his axe, the first tree fell. "Now I shall be made into a beautiful chest. I shall hold wonderful treasure," the first tree said. And the carpenter took the first tree to his workshop and began to cut and to shape that tree. After hours of hard work, the carpenter was finished. He had made a strong, sturdy feed box for his animals. Happy and pleased with his work, the carpenter took the first tree and put her in the barn where she would remain for the rest of her life.
Wonderful.
The once beautiful tree was not covered with gold nor with treasure, and she did not hold precious rubies and jewels. She was coated with sawdust and filled with hay for a hungry farm animal. Then, one day, the carpenter went back to the same hilltop, and he cut down the second tree. With the swoop of his axe, the second tree fell. As the second tree was carried off to the carpenter's workshop, he was so excited. He finally would be made into a big, strong sailboat. He wanted to be. And he would get to carry kings across the waters. But no mighty ship was made that day. The carpenter had cut and sawed and shaped the second tree into a simple fishing boat. He was too weak and too small to sail out on the ocean or even the river. He was taken to a lake instead. The next day, the carpenter went back for the third tree. And with the swing of his axe, down came the third tree.
Praise God.
He was very sad. He wanted to stay on the hill. He wanted people to look at him and see how tall his branches were so that they could think of God. The carpenter, he had no real use for that third tree at that moment. So the third tree was cut into large beams and it was thrown into the lumber yard. Many, many days and night passed. The three trees had all forgotten their dreams. But one night, golden starlight poured over the first tree as a young woman placed her newborn baby in the feed box. The baby's parents wished that they had a crib for their newborn baby. But this manger was going to have to do. As people gathered to see the child and bring him gifts, the first tree realized that she was holding the greatest treasure in the world. Years had went by, and one evening, a tired traveler and his friend crowded into the old fishing boat. The traveler fell asleep as the second tree quietly sailed out into the lake. Soon a thundering and a thrashing storm arose. The little tree shuddered. She knew she did not have enough strength to carry so many passengers safely through with the wind and the rain. The tired man awakened. He stood up. He stretched out his hand and said, "Peace." The storm stopped as quickly as it had begun. And suddenly, the second tree knew he was carrying the King of heaven and of earth. One Friday morning, the third tree was startled when his beams were yanked from the forgotten woodpile. He flinched as he was carried through an angry, jeering crowd. He shuddered when soldiers nailed a man's hands to him. He felt ugly and harsh and cruel as this man named Jesus was crucified on his beams. It was a sad day. All the third tree had ever wanted was for people to look upon him and to think of God. But on Sunday morning, when the sun rose and the earth trembled with joy beneath her, the third tree knew that God's love had changed everything. The man that was crucified on his beams was no ordinary man, but he was God himself, robed in the flesh, who had came down to die for the world's sins and to give people a hope of life everlasting. The third tree wept for joy when he realized that his dreams had came true. The carpenter had shaped him into a cross, and now when people would look upon him, they would think of God and his love and the sacrifice that he gave, and how he rose from the dead on that bright and joyous Easter morning. I encourage y'all to just worship the Lord with us as we begin to sing.
unless you have a scripture, say